Alright, we continue the ASUS ROG qualifier in the European server. As we have in the top right-hand side, our Red Protoss player ShoWTimE. He is taking on the Blue Terran player ByuN. So, of course, this is European server qualifier, which means whoever, this is all played on Europe. I think that is fairly important to take note of course. ShoWTimE. He came down here as he lost a Petit Drogo initially, and then was able to win against Denver and Thermal to play against ByuN, who got knocked down here by MaxPack. So we actually just finished casting those games to have a little look and see how exactly that went down. It was actually a very fun series. Just before we get too deep in this, thank you so much, first of all, Horny, for the Prime sub, and also Ducker13, thank you so much for the generosity gifted in 5 subs, to Pumpkin Piggy 1979 on the 2-month resub, Save April Ryan, Thonku, Psychode on the 3-month resub, and also Vincent Time 4. Thank you so much for the generous 5 gifted subs. I really appreciate it. I know they came in just at the start of the break, and I did just want to get those shouted out before we got any deeper in the action today. So yeah, ShoWTimE, we weren't on the kind of ShoWTimE side of the bracket yesterday, so he wasn't really someone we kind of kept up with the results of, like I say, dropping down to Drogo and stuff, and then we never saw the lower bracket yesterday either. In fact, the lower bracket yesterday finished at, got to their point at which they stopped before we even finished casting our winner bracket qualifying match. So we were just in the winner bracket all day yesterday, which is why, like I say, I was just having to double check a little bit as to who ShoWTimE actually played against to end up down in this lower bracket. The European servers, the ping advantage is on ShoWTimE's side, and he actually kills that engineering bay, no cancel from ByuN. And that has got to be something which is going to sting a little bit, because that ain't really meant to happen like that, at least. So, that's a little interesting, as we'll see a Nexus drop down here. Reactor coming up on this barracks, joined by a factory in a moment or two. And we'll see, of course, ByuN just now going to start that expansion. He's been playing a lot like this against the in the MaxPax games. Very, it wasn't an engineering bay block a lot of the time against MaxPax, but a lot of just factory before expansion, sometimes just full-on one-base stuff. Just playing very safe and very aggressive too, right? This leads you into a lot of aggressive options. As ByuN, of course, is the reigning ASUS ROG champion. Of course, that was last year, and I think I stand by the idea of saying, well, I don't really agree with inviting someone based on their win last year to an event this year, especially when it gives out ESL points and stuff. It's much more competitive to invite players based on the ESL point rankings, and then, of course, have these qualifiers. So, unfortunately for ByuN, he does have to try and qualify if he wants to try and, defend his crown. Of course, this is not his last chance. While this is lower bracket, there is still the American server qualifier tonight. It's in like 8 hours or something. So there is like a final chance for these guys should they not make it through this one. So and obviously only one player makes it through this lower bracket today as well. So it's tough in the remainder of this European qualifier. Like I said, maybe the American server qualifier can give some of these players some better chances. I think he's trying to cruise around the front. Will, I believe, spot the Oracle that flew out of the base. As the Oracle will get across, he's going to be flying in such a way that he should be able to identify immediately that this is Cloaked Banshees. So that's a really nice scout just from sending the Oracle across the map. So that works out pretty well to begin with. As the Oracle shows up, as I say, Ta's going to be able to see everything that's going on there, including that tank just building up, and at least factory on a tech lab. He might not know it's a tank. Yeah, I mean, good information realistically for ShoWTimE early as we drop a little revelation down. And obviously just able to keep track of things at the front for the moment as this Banshee backs it up a little bit. Viking is coming through. And just seeing a couple of additional gateways continue to build up on the natural as well. So all of that getting set up right now as we do have our tank and Viking continuing to build. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, obviously, maybe even a Cyclone right now might not be so bad. Get a Cyclone out and really just start building into just a little bit extra kind of anti-air defense. You could argue you don't necessarily need it because obviously you are in a position where you've already kind of gone for tank first, and maybe you just don't now. If you haven't needed it already, is it going to be much use later? Because the later it goes, the more Cyclone usually falls off anyway. So that's maybe an argument to keep in mind as well. I think it can go either way, honestly, give or take. Play it how you want it. I think, obviously, Double Tank has its powers as well, of course. What I don't like so much is this Raven. whenever there's an Oracle open, and there's likely going to be Phoenix on the follow-up, and obviously easier to say this time because there is, but every time you see these Phoenix, it's a little bit rough, because these Phoenix are really good at denying that Raven. So that's something which I'm pretty sure we're going to get to see at some stage here. Those Phoenix kind of jumping on that Raven and just picking it off. We saw it a lot when we were casting some TvPs the other day. I can't remember exactly which event, but we saw it like 3 times or something, where I think it must have been the Summer Championship, because I think it was even against ByuN. Classic and Hero played against ByuN. Oh no, it couldn't have been against ByuN. It must have been against Bunny. And multiple times Bunny had this Raven against Phoenix, and every single time different Protoss players just dive bombed the hell out of the freaking Raven. So the Raven just kept on getting denied. It was pretty funny. It was just like, well, guys, there's Phoenix and there's a Raven, and the Raven's dead again. So yeah, it was a very good example of basically exactly what I'm talking about here as we get set up. Stream tiles not updated. Thank you, guys. Update that now. We are live. These are not replays anymore. Replays were a little bit earlier. Alrighty, so we do see some additional Zealots warping in on the top side, so they're going to come on through and get themselves lined up. Stimpak and Combat Shields, +1 attack. All the good stuff coming on in at the moment from ByuN. As we do see this force starting to head out towards the upper side. Again, Medivacs and the Raven joining together. The couple of Widow Mines coming through as well. So away we go as we push across to the top side of the map. And just going to be having our Adept of ShoWTimE pulling back a little bit further as we do scan it up. So ByuN is going to see just what's going on right now. We press forward here. A couple of tanks will begin to siege. Our Bio Army stims on in. Start taking some damage, and Archon taking some hits. Just going to be seeing this Oracle wanting to come through, and does drop a little Revelation down. Nice little position, though, from ByuN. These are never easy positions to break, and right now, this Raven's still alive. I'm impressed, but I mean, that is because the Phoenix is just nowhere to be seen. It will get an anti-armor missile and an auto turret down. ByuN kind of wants to make use of that, but at the same time, the super battery is active, so maybe he just pulled all the buttons, or pushed all the buttons a little bit too soon there, right? Because if he just waited, then he could have waited for the super battery to fade, then maybe use the Raven a little bit more. Now the Phoenix have joined in from the other side. They're doing a really good job of lifting up a lot of the Widow Mines, making sure they are not still burrowed. But honestly, it looks like ByuN might just have a little bit too much anyway. Still pushing forward here. Again, a lot of damage done. Another Widow Mine shot hits the Phoenix, and ShoWTimE's just going to end up losing out on this fight. GG. ByuN is going to power through and just have too much. ByuN goes up 1-0 in this best of 3. It is time to bounce back if you're going to try and win this out, as ShoWTimE is the red Protoss in the bottom left corner of the map. Top right, our blue Terran player is ByuN. And away we go. Hey, thank you so much, Ruben Nedu, for the Prime sub, just dropping in right there. Thank you so much for dropping the Prime on the channel. I really appreciate it, obviously. And thanks for supporting us during that last game. There's only best of 3s today, guys. Only best of 3s. Something else to keep in mind. Probe of ShoWTimE gonna head up to the top side of the map. Just gonna come around and have a look to see what's going on. Rax is a building. And yeah, obviously a full wall off here, but I think ByuN's just going to expand. I am very wrong. His money was floating up a lot, but I didn't take into consideration that he hadn't started the orbital. So that's just a bad putting together of things by me. As he dropped the factory and the orbital at the same time, obviously that's 300 minerals. So I'm looking at like 340 minerals in the bank, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's about to like drop a CC, and he's got ShoWTimE playing his game, you know? No, not the case at all. It is a thing, and I only say it as well. I'm kind of baited into the idea because Thermal did it recently, right? A lot, where he was setting up this full wall off and then expanding behind it as though basically nothing actually happened, like nothing weird was going on. But maybe here I should have known better. But it would have been maybe a cool mind game as well, because in that regard, obviously ByuN has been doing this, A, in the first game, and B, just a lot in general. So it might have been a cool way to continue on and kind of like, you know, have ShoWTimE on a bit. Yeah, I was just, more than anything, that was just me getting a little bit ahead of myself, so. Forgetting about the need of an orbital. Forgetting about the fact that, you know, there is enough gas for a factory. My apologies on the bad call. Stargate builds in the main base of ShoWTimE. Just going to see an adept heading across to the upper side of the map, so away we go. Hey, what's up, Slowy Ran? Thank you so much for the 2-month resub. Welcome back. Adept moving up is going to hit the high ground and not really do too much else. Just going to see our medevac producing an Hellion, another one on the way. This is going to be a pretty scary combo, right? You're going to have, I assume you go drop the Marines and then you run the Hellions by. You could just leave the Marines at home to defend. I mean, there's definitely no point in leaving the Hellions at home to defend, because Adept is allowed in, but doesn't have a lot of vision to necessarily see what's going on anyway. As our medevac, absolutely going to lift up the Marines. And that means the Hellions should just start to run across this map here in the next few moments. So away they go. Making their way down out to the bottom. ByuN going to be continuing to fly that medevac toward the main. And these Hellions, well, let's see what they can get up to. Honestly, the idea is you want to pull the units away into the main base. The Hellions can then just go into the natural. However, Hellions could also just join up in the main base as well. And now they could just help against these Adepts. Fighting out of range of the battery initially. Okay, 2 Hellions get by. Oh, I love that. Marines back to the natural. Battery's still in play, though. And the battery in each mineral line is going to go a long way here. As finally, we're seeing a little bit of probe damage done. Battery out of juice in the natural. But a super battery goes down. Lift up, ByuN. Don't keep fighting this. There's absolutely no reason to. Only 4 probes killed. Battery's really saving ShoWTimE here. Having a battery in each mineral line was so essential to defend this. Without that, he takes so much more damage. I actually think ByuN, when he was in the main, maybe could have just done a bit better. He actually decided... I like the lift down to the low ground, but maybe the Hellion should have dove back down there as well. Because he didn't have all 3 Hellions really in sync on the back of the main. And if all 3 Hellions go back down to the nat... Maybe he couldn't do that because of the position of the Adepts, and then he just loses out, and he feels as though the Hellions die. But maybe on the natural they could have done a little bit more. Obviously, the super battery, I think he should have just lifted up against a little sooner, though. I guess it didn't really do any harm, but maybe he could have been further away, and then maybe he doesn't have to drop off and get killed off by the Phoenix. Obviously, that would have been nice if he could have just kept that medevac alive, right? So that could have been a cute little bonus as well, for sure. A cloak coming up right now, getting that ready to go. Down the south, Viking gonna get a shot off. Phoenix gonna take a bit of damage. Marines coming through. Phoenix getting hurt. Double auto turret goes down to try and help ByuN bust through this. I'm sure that's great and all, but I'm not sure it's necessarily going to be enough. As ByuN does take a step back, and yeah. Problem is, obviously, now you've lost the Raven, so you don't get the usage of that again. And with a few Stalkers added in here, I don't think this army really wants to stick around. ByuN probably could have, like I said before, maybe made a bit of a better move back. He is going to end up just turning around and fight this, more so out of just necessity if he wants to trade out at all. Otherwise, he's going to take so much free damage on the retreat. Tries to use the line of sight blockers to his favor. Nice scan, actually. He's going to keep a lock onto the Stalkers, so we'll get rid of one. Okay, actually, ByuN turret's pretty well dancing back and forth. Not an easy dance to kind of execute properly, though. And coming out of all of this, he's down 16-ish workers. I mean, down 14, you know, whenever SCVs finish, you know, etc., etc. He's just so far behind on his own tech. No third CC in sight. And that's why I really worry, because you've also got these Phoenix that can even, you know, just add another couple of SCVs here and there. And when you're already behind on the worker count, losing another couple of workers here and there is just going to, cut that little bit deeper and hurt that little bit further. It's rough as that Phoenix come back through to the top side. Gateways continuing up from ShoWTimE, of course, as the Phoenix come in. You're going to get rid of a couple SCVs. 3 workers going down as the Cyclone lock-on is good to eliminate a Phoenix there as well. I mean, those are the kind of pickups which will go a long way for ByuN over time, right? Just keep cutting that Phoenix count down, making life that little tougher for ShoWTimE. He was still making Phoenix 2, so he really wants to get to that real massive Phoenix that's really terrifying to play against. That's obviously so much more difficult to do when you are losing Phoenix repeatedly, so that Phoenix ball will just be that little bit more manageable. Not that it's out of control right now. He rebuilds back up to 5 Phoenix. It's not like it's 10 plus. It's not like it's an insane amount. And maybe 5 is just the number he wants to stick on, actually, because he isn't exactly playing into Colossi, so he's actually going to play Templar Archives. I would say going beyond this amount of Phoenix doesn't make a lot of sense, because then you'd be spending gas and, a lot of your tech money on basically just not what's, the best thing is going to be, which is going to be the Archons and the Immortals, etc. And he starts one more Phoenix, though, so I am not correct there either. I'm not having a very good series when it comes to calling what's going on, but, well, hey-ho. Sometimes it happens. ByuN's army? You can see how it can be scary against this force of ShoWTimE. Obviously, as 2 Archons join in, it becomes a little less scary. Zealots and Phoenix across the map, and we'll see how ByuN can do defending against that. And these Archons will do so much, as the Widowmines do help a lot initially. If there was not Archons here, ByuN could kind of just really have a good time with this, I think, but the 2 Archons being added in just beef it up so much so, and now we've got Phoenix just lifting up every single unit. The Widowmines are just sat there on cooldown as well, by the way, as maybe the Zealots went up there and soaked those. Gonna lift those, and obviously you got the Medivacs that can go down. The Phoenix are genuinely at this point where they are just lifting forever. I'd love it if they chased down the Medivacs. I feel like that was maybe the more obvious choice initially. Now they try and find a way out. Does lose 1 Phoenix as he goes. The Cyclone lock-on helping. And very narrowly another one, but able to get far enough away. 13 SCVs killed, and ShoWTimE's main army is settled on the right side of the map and preparing to figure out just what might happen next. I think ShoWTimE's been in a very comfortable position for quite a while. His initial defense is very good. He's been, always been very ahead on that worker count. ByuN's 3rd, and his tech, like I said, was very late. And we're really seeing a lot of that, just going to see a lot of that kind of playing through as Widowmine sneaks out to the left, and the army starting to move down there. A couple of Cyclones get lifted, taken down immediately. An Archon chased away just slightly, as we do see another Widowmine picked off. Nice force field's going to cut that Bio army in half, and that's GG from ByuN, as ShoWTimE is going to take game number 2. And we're tied up 1-1 in our best of 3. In the top left-hand corner, we're going to have our Red Protoss who was able to tie it up. It is ShoWTimE taking on our Blue Terran in the bottom right-hand side. It is, of course, ByuN. Alright, well, getting ourselves into this, seeing where we end up going. It's going to be seeing how our Iraq's placed a little bit further back, but nothing really too major there to talk about, I don't think. Just going to see that probe going to get through, and we'll start to nibble that SCV. It's just been that tiny little bit annoying right now, but yeah, nothing that should really go too far. As ByuN double gas, so obviously looking for that factory early in the game again. He just seems to really be loving this non-fast expansions. For whatever reason, he's just really seeming to be in love with those today. And yesterday too, like I say, he was doing this against Max Pact in the winner bracket as well before he fell out. Well, let's see what happens this time. More Hellion drops perhaps, maybe a Widow Mine setup. We're about to see. As last game, it really felt like ShoWTimE defended well early, and off that defense was really able to just get himself ahead and obviously just play out a very comfortable position from there. As that probe is going to head across to the upper left-hand side. Starcraft just as part of the wall then, and that's going to be how our game sets up. Starport is building from ByuN, just going to be seeing the Widow Mine burrowing up on top of the ramp, and the Tech Lab building up on that factory as well, so that is coming on through. This is actually just a much more, like, straight-up aggressive push, really. Like, one Widow Mine into a Cyclone, high Marine count. It's actually a very hard counter to a Stargate opener, right? What do we actually drop and what do we leave at home? Is he going to drop everything? Okay, well, that can be okay, because while an Oracle would look to fly across the map, it would mean the Oracle wasn't at home to defend as well. So, it's actually not super terrible to send everything over to the other side, while it might be a little bit kind of, you know, against what you kind of initially believe in. Oracle sees the medevac. Cyclone sees the Oracle. The Oracle turns around, though, so the Cyclone turns around because of it. But that's actually going to be the worst case for ByuN, because obviously now this Oracle has come back. His Cyclone ain't across the map. Okay, well, it doesn't look like he's going to get much done here as he starts to expand. He's just 12 workers down. He's going to drop the Widow Mine. ShoWTimE. Kill that, yes. He dropped the Revelation. I was like, ah! I guess what's safer is now Phoenix is going to kill this medevac. Oh, God. Oh, the Marines! Get back out. Because the medevac will fall, but at least the Marines are alive? I mean, still a really good defense for ShoWTimE. Only thing that would have been better would have obviously stopped these Marines getting home, but the fact that you just didn't take damage in my eyes is already somewhat game-winning. It's a 14 worker difference because ByuN didn't expand early. Like, he's just finishing his command center as ShoWTimE starts his third. But it's more than that as well as, oh my god, the Raven gets dive bombed by Phoenix too. It's more than that. It's also the fact that this natural expansion, you know, it's not an orbital still. So you're not even getting the mule advantage that you might usually have. So there's something else on top of all the rest, which is also going to really hurt and suck here. Oh, and ShoWTimE is in a fantastic place, guys. I mean, okay, we lost a Phoenix, but you've killed a Raven. You've killed the entire initial aggression. ShoWTimE should be beaming right now. He is in a fantastic place in this game 3, and ByuN is looking like he's in a fair amount of trouble at the moment. It's going to be really tough to figure out what ByuN needs to do to get out of this, actually. It's, it ain't going to be easy, whatever goes down, I don't think. As that Engineering Bay going to finish up on the natural. Keep Phoenix back around the top side. They're going to fly in, grab an SCV. Charge now +1, still setting up as we just see our Phoenix still coming through and seeing what they might get up to in the next few moments. Gonna drop a Revelation, sorry, Stasis Ward in the center. Phoenix around that right-hand side, moving around a little bit. Just going to be seeing them getting held back slightly, as we do have the Temple Archives coming up on the natural. charge on the way, +1 armor on the way. Those Phoenix getting turned back around from the front, so they're just going to get pushed away by that little bit of a bioforce. So that's going to be chased out of there at the moment. This Phoenix still just moving around and trying to see, once again, what they might be able to get done. It's pulling back a bit. Robo facility setting up on that natural expansion, and just going to see how Phoenix still moving along to the right. A Bio Army coming in, and a little lock on there for a moment as the Phoenix gets tagged up a little bit. Nothing too major, just seeing that Phoenix still taking some damage. And our +1 armor setting up on the engineering bay as well. So all of that coming through as our army moves into the center of the map. Widowmine's going to get hit by the stasis sword while he turned. He scans, and he will kill the stasis. Nice catch from ByuN. To me, obviously ByuN's all in. I mean, he always was kind of when this game got going and it was not going well. I don't think he should be chasing the Phoenix. Why are these SCVs turned around? I don't know. That was a horrible stim from ByuN. Chasing Phoenix around in a very silly way. And like I say, leaving his SCVs behind. I mean, an SCV pull don't go very well when you've left the SCVs behind. So he has a good amount of Widow Mines, and honestly, against Pure Zealot, more or less, is actually not a terrible composition that ByuN has. I don't think he should be able to work. I think it is just a little bit too much. He has... Well, let's see what ShoWTimE can do. Does he have a way to see the mines? He can see the ones in the back, so the Phoenix should maybe aim to lift those up. The Zealots actually come in flanking, and ByuN's attack is already, I feel, crashing hard. And really not quite delivering where it needs to, as a few Zealots turn back around. Some SCVs get chased away. Extra round of Zealots is just going to be continue to warp through as our Phoenix chase forward. Marauders and Marines will continue in and continue to do a good amount of damage. Our army of ByuN continues up, trying to find a way to break through. But again, if you don't break through here, you also just gave away 11 SCVs in the SCV pull. I think ByuN's time in this qualifier is coming to a close. It really is, right? I mean, what else are you really meant to do at this point? His army supply isn't, like, super out of reach, like, down 20. I just still don't see how you take a fight good enough, right? Like, ShoWTimE would really have to mess up a fight so badly. And the thing is, ByuN has no follow-up to it either. Like, ByuN could maybe win a fight well enough to, like, get back in the game if he still had economy. But he needs to win the game with this army, and I think that is what is so unrealistic. That he just has zero follow-up behind this, and that every second that passes by, ShoWTimE is still mining off 3 bases with 60 probes. ByuN types out GG, and ShoWTimE is winning this series 2-1 to take the first match.